I completed my first practicum at KP Public School, which is located in a multicultural community in Western Sydney with a mix of low and middle income families. The school's mission, vision, and values focus on the importance of providing an inclusive and supportive learning environment for all students to achieve their full potential, with an emphasis on literacy and numeracy. As indicated on this slide, there are approximately 426 students enrolled at this school, with 83% of students having a language background other than English. The school's average NAPLAN performance for Year 5 is below average for reading and numeracy compared to schools nationwide. For this study, we are observing a Year 5 classroom with a total of 26 students, with 12 being females and 14 males. The students in this class come from a range of intellectual and cultural backgrounds, with the majority of students possessing learning disabilities, resulting in more than half performing below stage level as reflected in the NAPLAN results. My mentor teacher had a strong focus on behavior management and maintained order in the class through structured routine. In line with this, the desks were arranged in rows of threes with assigned seating due to numerous behavioral issues and personality clashes. The classroom was furnished with an interactive whiteboard, and the students have access to both iPads and laptops. Typically, students displayed greater engagement during hands-on activities or lessons where they understood the reasoning behind the learning experience and can relate it to their everyday lives. Upon observing that students were more engaged in lessons that involved practical activities or manipulatives, and to create a more cohesive and inclusive environment as per the school's philosophy, I decided to focus on implementing the 21st century teaching approach, active learning, more specifically, project based learning, or PBL for short, in the classroom. PBL is a student centered approach that heavily surrounds student involvement through hands on activities that values critical thinking, problem solving, and collaborative skills relevant for being successful in and out of the school environment. When integrated with mathematics, PBL could lead to improved academic achievement, enhanced self efficacy, intrinsic motivation, and engagement. By working on real world problems and seeking solutions for them, students develop positive attitudes towards learning and gain a deeper understanding on concepts. This approach is well aligned with the MEE framework, which aims to cultivate student engagement through high cognitive, operative, and effective learning experiences. The following slides showcase the mini unit of work I designed which centers on the properties of angles and their applications in real-world scenarios. The first lesson will introduce the topic and the mathematical concepts required to distinguish between the different types of angles and how to measure and draw them, dependent on students' learning level. The second lesson will involve students working in groups of 3 to 4, which will encourage students to collaborate and communicate with one another in order to create a mini golf course using relevant mathematical concepts such as angles. The third lesson will include a short presentation of how students achieve the success criteria and learning objectives, and an opportunity to test out the mini golf courses created by their peers. To conclude, students will participate in a reflection and feedback session to consolidate their learning, self evaluate, and give feedback to peers using the 2 stars 1 wish method. To determine the success of project based learning, I will be using three data collection strategies. Firstly, I will use observation schedules to record student engagement levels during the self directed part of each lesson. The observation schedule and checklist will aid in evaluating student levels of engagement as well as the effectiveness of my own pedagogical decisions. I plan to complete the schedules on an iPad for convenience while observing students from the front of the classroom to monitor overall progress and engagement. After, I will circulate through to each group for further observations and ask relatable questions in connection to the MEE framework and provide support to students where required. Secondly, I plan to equip students with the tools required to keep track of their learning process, whether by writing, sketching, or reporting. This will enable students to take ownership of their education and allow me to keep track of their development. I will develop clear learning objectives and define what each student should achieve by the end of each lesson in order to facilitate self assessment. Rubrics and checklists will be provided to specify the learning objectives and success criteria. Additionally, I will encourage constructive feedback using the 2 stars 1 wish method and self reflection prompts derived from the MEE framework in order to obtain a holistic view of strengths and areas for improvement. Finally, I will collect students' work samples to analyze the depth of their learning and their ability to apply the mathematical concepts learned. Work samples can also be used to provide formative assessment feedback to students as well as exhibit learning outcomes to relevant stakeholders. Following each lesson, all students will be required to submit their logbooks, drafted ideas, plans, models, and presentations to illustrate their progress and enable targeted feedback and facilitate accountability and evaluation. The use of all three data collection methods will yield ample evidence of both student achievement and engagement, serving to evaluate the effectiveness of project based learning. Each data collection method has its own affordances and limitation, and as such, each data type will be examined based on markers of engagement and achievement. Markers of achievement will relate to learning outcomes from the syllabus, while markers of engagement will be assessed according to the MEE framework regarding high operative, cognitive, and affective. Both sets of data will assist in providing insight into what activities and actions were successful in promoting substantial student engagement, as well as identifying which aspects of my teaching pedagogies were effective, ineffective, or need improvement. As it will become evident, PBL supports meaningful mathematical learning and offers students various entry points to enable them to problem solve for multiple days in a structured yet flexible process. Undertaking this action research has the potential to significantly impact my professional growth and future teaching practices in mathematics. It presents as a valuable opportunity for me to reflect on my pedagogical practices and refine my teaching skills, ultimately fostering a collaborative and student centered classroom that increases student engagement and achievement. Moreover, with PBL, students are more likely to be intrinsically motivated and will remain focused in their task, rather than on task as they are working towards solving real world problems by applying the maths concepts taught. Successfully implementing project based learning will align with several AITSL standards, such as gaining a deeper understanding of students and their learning needs, establishing challenging learning goals to stretch beyond their current level of knowledge and skills, supporting all students in classroom activities, assessing student learning in formal and informal approaches, and engage in professional learning that improves teaching practices. As I embark on this research, I am eager to develop a more active approach to my teaching and gain the confidence to implement PBL in my classroom, thereby enhancing my teaching practice and assisting in the growth of my students in a more engaging and meaningful manner for mathematics.